live.
Woo!
Yes, but I don't know if Brent can hear us yet. We were hoping that that might do it. I tried muting him and then unmuting him. I don't know if that'll make any difference. Yeah, it's on his side software-wise or something. Bum, 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 bum. Because it's a little hard to have a tech study and have a discussion when you've got three of us and only two of us can talk.
Yep. Obviously, you guys have been around more than. Did you look at the settings and what the microphone is set to, or the speakers?
Well, his microphone, I can hear him fine.
Okay.
His speakers work fine, and you know that works fine on his side. He just can't get anything from this particular thing.
So you can't hear you.
Right.
Or me. Brett, can you hear me? Nope.
Nope. Okay. Food. So, seeing as it's just you and I
Again.
again. So it was. They had an alternative reading if you didn't want to go through name. His name is part of the RCL.
I didn't get that. Like, I saw the one guy post in the Narrative Lectionary Facebook group, like,
Yep.
this is part of the RCL, so I must not read it.
Yeah.
Well, so are the shepherds on Christmas. Like, the point isn't to not be the RCL. The point is to go through the sweep of the biblical story.
Right. And I think again that's going back to that broader sense of where is this arc taking us? And I think the other story works well as well.
What is the other story?
The other story is the where he doesn't let the oil run out.
It's a Hanukkah miracle.
Huh?
That it's a Hanukkah miracle.
Well,
not
not the
yes,
Hanukkah.
but oil not running out is the miracle of Hanukkah.
Yeah. But it's the he provides for them so that she doesn't have to sell her son and children into slavery kind of stuff, and then they go immediately into human trafficking angles on that one, which is fine and good, and that's maybe makes some people happy. But on All Saints Day in particular, I happen to like this text for All Saints Day because I've preached on it once before, and my underlying theme when I preached on it then will be what I'm going to probably do again on this one, is that idea that this insignificant girl, we don't know how old she is, she doesn't have a name, is one that starts this whole cascade of events that go to the highest levels of government, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then
it's got a baptismal theme, and it's great All Saints text.
Yep. So going with the whole concept of and then you have this whole idea of the water. Are the Abana and the Parfar or the Parfar or the whatever rivers in Damascus far better rivers? I'm sure they are, because the Jordan in many ways, and this is one of the nice things, is the Jordan in many ways is much like the Baraboo. It's a lazy, dirty river.
Yeah.
It's not spectacular. It doesn't have great wide vistas. It's not the Mississippi. It's not. It's just this little, barely a river that ambles its way down, from Galilee down to the Dead Sea. And so the ordinariness of this tale is really there, because the thing is, the people who are in positions of power don't get to use their power to get what they want. They get what they want through the common, ordinary things of life. People that are servants, water that is plain, washing which is done, even wanting to give Elisha stuff, that didn't happen. You know what I mean? That gets a little bit further into the story, but it's all a gift.
Yep.
And it's common everyday things that are done to bring that gift of healing. So you talk about the fact, going back to the saints, then is the saints of old are, we think of the names, St. John, we may think of those who are being elevated for sainthood in the Roman Catholic Church, like J2P2, and but when in fact the saints that this day is all about are the saints that are sitting next to you, the saints that raised you, the saints that drove you nuts, the saints that that you may have looked up to, the common everyday people, the people that made it safe for you to go to school when you were a kid.
Yeah.
And
Right. Well, so it is kind of interesting, and do with this what you will, that All Saints this year, for those of us who always observe it on a Sunday,
right,
is on November 2nd,
right,
which in the Catholic Church, where it's a fixed day, November 1st,
right,
November 2nd is All Souls.
right.
So, the saints are the specifically sainty saints, and All Souls is all of you, right?
Yeah.
That this is very, very much, in sort of my humble Lutheran opinion, the actual All Saints Day, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's kind of a neat connection if you're talking about, we even want to make this division, and historically in the church there was this division between All Saints and All Souls, and today's All Souls, if you're going to make that division on Sunday, and this is All Saints.
Yeah, and I mean, not to toot the Lutheran horn too much, but we don't celebrate All Souls. We celebrate All Saints, and because
that's what I'm saying. Is that is November 2nd is that day, though.
Well, what I'm saying, and again, I'm going to try to figure. I like it, and I want to bring it in a little bit, but I don't want to bring it in a Catholic shaming sort of way.
No. Yeah.
But you try to bring the humble Lutheran approach to it, saying, they have a separate day for this, and it's wonderful and it's good, because they have kind of a differentiation there. But one of the things that that we have, that we get to bring to the table, is this understanding that we're all saints, that we're all souls are all saints in Christ.
Yeah, and I mean, that's something that you can, I think, pretty easily say without Catholic shaming, because those 1,500 years are 1,500 years of our history too, right?
Yep.
So I mean, we did it. We had that differentiation.
Well, and we still very much do within our cultural understanding. I mean, I've harped on the idea of all saints. You've heard me preach on it before. That when we pray every single Sunday, when we do the prayers, we pray for the saints that have gone before us and the saints who are among us now.
I always consciously use that word.
Yeah.
When I do those prayers.
Yeah, me too.
I always say that.
It's not. It's almost never part of the rubrics, or that are there, for the prayers are printed and stuff. But
I don't know, this resource, whatever resource we're using now, always says saints in that last petition.
Yeah, it says always saints, but it doesn't always refer to saints in the larger.
No, it's always a very short one.
Yeah,
that's always
very often they do appeal to the saints. They don't delineate very much, but they don't always make it specific either. Does that make sense?
No. I think if you're trying to write something that has a broad appeal, you're trying to write something that has a broad appeal, and then the question becomes, just like the question with any lectionary becomes, what is this? Is this the thing you must do, or is it a tool, right? And do you get to modify the prayers? I say yes, because I do it. But I modify everything, so there you go, right?
Well, I had Jim Limburg in my head. In seminary, he was like, if you don't spend as much time writing your prayers as you do your sermon, you're doing a certain disservice to your congregation. I'm like, yeah, I don't have enough time for both of those things. But I tried for a very long stretch to write from scratch absolutely every petition, and it drove me bananas.
I did that for 3-4 months.
Mm-hmm.
Then I figured out where the prayers were in Dropbox.
Yes.
I did not know that we had prayers.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because I think I preached on the story, so it was my first year here. I preached on the story of Joseph.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd written the prayers from scratch because I had no idea that we had. And I remember you going, wow, did you write those prayers yourself or did you use the thing? I was like, there's a thing? I could be using a thing?
I thought I explained it.
Oh, I'm sure you did. And whether or not it would whoosh is another question.
So, no, I think, when it comes to this particular lesson, too, it's one that's been part of the lectionary before, but because I remember several years ago intentionally bringing it out to preach on it because I love the story. But I think because we're part, so how does this fit into that larger arc of things, too, is a question. So, because we're making this move now, we're going from David and Solomon.
Right.
So as you work into an intro into this particular thing, how do you get to this point of telling this story? So we have, and I think you can use that same thing that we were just talking about of this idea of saints because you tend to think of the biblical characters, and we both touched on the sense of, they are not biblical superheroes in the fact that they are flawless. And so we have two of Israel's greatest kings, two of united Israel's only kings on some levels. I mean, if you don't count Saul, and then things fall apart, and this is this is a divided kingdom that brings a story, and when these kingdoms split apart, we had these prophets arise because there were problems with the way that God's people were being ruled. So prophets were sent, and that's how Elijah shows up. And so he sort of sets the stage for the rest of the prophets that will follow, because who do we have coming up then?
Well, so this is Elisha,
right? And
then next week is Micah.
Okay.
And then Micah is from you, O Bethlehem in Ephrathah, and then the justice, kindness bit.
Yep.
So that's the Micah. Then it goes to Isaiah. What part of Isaiah? Great question, Pastor Don. Let's check. The middle of Isaiah 36. So my Asiatic chronology is not the best, but I don't know if that means they're in exile yet or not.
Okay.
But Isaiah, so Micah, Isaiah 36, then Jeremiah's temple sermon, and then Habakkuk.
Habakkuk.
Whatever. But yeah, so we got Habakkuk on Advent 1.
Esther, Isaiah.
Okay. Is Esther the first week of December then?
Yep.
Ugh.
Is that you?
Yup.
Oh, you don't like doing Esther?
Remember last year we had the Bible study on Esther? God is completely I don't like Esther.
Oh, that's right.
God's completely unnecessary.
Yeah, but it's got Mordecai.
Anyway, it's not my favorite. But neither is Micah, and I'm preaching on that, so.
I like Micah because the thing is, as long as you don't think walking humbly, doing justice, and all that kind of good stuff is going to get you into heaven, and you're going to be able to do that perfectly every day. I mean, that's part of what the Lord requires.
Well, right. So that's the problem. Right. That's the problem I have with Micah. It's not Micah himself, right? Not the actual prophetic message, especially not the one we're preaching on. But is what people look at Micah and go, oh, well, this is all I have to do. Chip, chop, chip.
Yep.
And they just go and do that, and they get so focused on doing justice, loving kindness, and in their perception walking humbly,
right,
that they get tied up doing all that stuff, and it's the same danger as Esther, right? That, oh, I'm just going to do all these things, and God is there, and that's nice, right? It's the people, and again, this is some of my snark coming out, but the same people who look at my friend Charles' Facebook post that says, I'm tired of pastors who'd rather solve social problems than be God's grace, and all the pastors who chime in, I don't see the difference, right?
Yes.
You're the reason I don't like Micah. And it is, and that's and I am probably the reason that they grump about something else. I'm perfectly fine with that because that's how this give and take works. But so what's after Esther? Do we get into the Gospels then?
We'll go back to Isaiah again real briefly, and then we go into Matthew.
So that'd be the end of Isaiah then, probably the whole comfort section, probably, yes?
Take a look. Boom. Isaiah 42.
Okay.
Here's my servant whom I am uphold, my chosen, and whom my soul.
Yep. I wrote my prophets paper on that in seminary.
Okay.
Yeah. 20 pages on 4 verses. It was done. I did it.
Yes.
And then we're into,
Yeah.
I wish that they wouldn't cut out Matthew 1 through 17.
Okay.
Well, that genealogy is so important to Matthew.
Yeah.
Matthew cares about that a bunch.
Which is why you can preach on it.
I know. Well, you can preach on it. That one's you. But right. I know, but I don't know. I really like it.
And that's okay. You can like it.
And that's okay.
And that's okay. No, genealogies, I mean, we talked a little bit about this when we were going through, and I had forgotten that I divided up that last week was the last week of the Pentateuch class, so I'm going to have to apologize to some people. But, because I thought, oh yeah, we'll come back, we'll do Deuteronomy next week, and I gave them a little summary, so that was nice, because I forgot that I split the first 2 weeks into Genesis, because there's too much to cover. And I'd forgotten about the fact that I was going to combine Numbers and, anyway, and Leviticus. But that being said, where was I going with that? Oh, with the genealogies again. How in Numbers it starts out with those genealogies, because it's very important to say this is who we were, and then it ends and says this is who we are at this point, and it says a lot about a people, and I think sometimes I've always been one of those people that's a little befoozled by this. There's some folks who don't care so much about their own family histories, or you show me somebody. That's going to Washington Island, or somebody that's going to go to Battleground, and they'll say, hey, I know people, things about these places. And I find that to be fascinating because it tells you something about what they're going to experience, or who, if they're from those places. So if I meet somebody who was born in Battleground, in the 1980s, I'm going to say, ooh, did you know a Dominic Guido? And they'll say, no, because I don't know. But anyway.
That's for the best, friend.
Yes. But I mean, where do you find those that connective tissue? And for Matthew, starting out and at least preaching on that business too is, going back before the birth of Jesus to say, because we do a lot of this, and we've been doing this, and I'm doing this with the confirmation kids too, is how did we get here from there? Yeah. So before we start preaching on 18 through 25, we'll say, how did we get here from there? And there's this long list of names that links this story back to where we've already been, where we're going. And that's, you draw those things out into that kind of stuff.
I agree. Especially if you're looking at a narrative. Go ahead.
Well, again, it's not that much sooner that we're looking at this, but we're looking at the 21st of December. So we're reading that Matthew text before Christmas, and we're going to have to sing Christmas songs. Because you're just going to have to, because they named him Jesus.
Oh yeah. Well, and it's the 21st. So right,
within striking distance.
Yeah. It's not like Christmas Eve is a Friday,
Yeah. Were you here for? When was that? Were you here for that stretch?
So it was 2012.
Okay.
The 22nd was a Saturday, 23rd was a Sunday, Christmas Eve was a Monday, and Christmas Day was a Tuesday. That was the one where my buddy got married on Saturday the 22nd. And so I was there, came back for Christmas Eve, did Christmas Day myself.
Yes.
And then
the other side of the equation is that one's not as bad. The one that's worse, though, is when you have Christmas Eve on Thursday, Christmas Day on Friday, then we have our Saturday service, and then we have our Sunday services. That gets to be a drag. The other way around isn't quite as bad.
No.
But, no, I think, as far as the arc of the story goes, so I think, going back to the text for this week, taking a look at section.
Don't look now, but guess what's happening in 2015?
Oh, we're gonna have the crap storm.
Christmas Eve is a Thursday.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's all right. It happens. It just does.
I know.
Maybe it'll give us some good looking ahead kind of stuff to say, well, what do we need to do here with this sort of stuff? But
anyway, going back to look at the arc of the story.
Yes, but that gets us back there. So so some of this is you take this All Saints thread then, string through this story that'll start to bring you from the kings of old and the glorious stories through these prophets who were, who very often took the side of nobodies, who were, and they were done, and they took that side of the nobodies because God called them to do that kind of stuff. So I think bringing that back into this Micah story.
Well, that's entirely the Micah story.
Yeah.
This is a different model of kingship. This is a different model of how you relate to God.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
You have a king in the model of the I would say specifically a king in the model of the image of David.
Mm-hmm.
Right? From Bethlehem, humble, just a shoot, right? You hear all these little things, and again, for the original audience, king, we're gonna talk about Jesus, right? But it's an entirely different model than what you have by the end of the monarchy, right? By the end of the monarchy, you've got kings who are kings,
yes,
doing king things, and not the humble citizen king. Like the image of David is, right? And so you've got that on the one hand, different model of kingship, and on the other hand, you've got a different model of the relationship with God, not modeled off of the Levitical code so much in terms of temple law, and this is exactly what, right? It's sort of riffing on that. It's a similar riff to Amos, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Micah says, this is really not what matters. What matters is doing justice, loving kindness, and walking humbly. And fine, like that, we'll go there because right that sets up the relationship, right? Well, you can't codify it because if you codify it, you're doing the same. It's the same problem.
Right.
The same problem Micah is trying to fix by telling you to do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly. When you codify those, you fall into the same pit.
Well, the codifying, and see if we can make this jump, just because I'm trying to do this a little bit with Naaman in this business too, is the fact that Naaman wants to know what to do, and he's expecting some grandiose gesture, or that Elisha will put his hands on him at the very least and do wave the magic wand,
I mean, he probably heard what happened with Elijah and the prophets of Baal, right? That this is right. This is what the prophets of this Israelite God do.
Right.
They show off some.
Yeah. Except for this one.
Right.
And the rest of them kind of follow. Yeah, Elijah was the showiest, I think, of the bunch.
Absolutely, he was.
But I think you're going back to this, because I've got this whole, Francisco business with the magic, God doesn't use the magic wand business. Again, we know this isn't a new topic for the Catholic Church or anybody, but we keep going back there because we anticipate that in order for God to do remarkable, miraculous things in people's lives, to bring healing, to bring wholeness, you have to do the laying on the hands, you have to do the hocus pocus, you have to do when instead, sometimes going down to the Jordan and washing 7 times in muddy, everyday water, doing normal things that people normally do, God works new things.
We expect the miraculous to be, miraculous, when in reality, right, the marvel of creation, to talk about that some more, the marvel of creation is how mundane it is.
Mm-hmm.
It is to me a much more, I don't know how to say it, a much more intriguing picture of a God who simmers creation over a low flame for millions of years to bring God the Italian grandmother, but it does that rather than whoosh.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and it is one of my favorite lines in this one too, though, is it also shows you where things are in place. Let me see if I can find it here. They didn't do anything in the commentary, but boom, 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 boom. So he trucks on down to see the king of Israel with a letter that, when this letter reaches you, know that I have sent to you my servant Naaman, that you may cure him of his leprosy. Again, the Naaman's king thinks, well, of course, if there's going to be great healing and wondrous things that are going to happen in Israel, it must be through the king, through the big shot. And the king gets the letter, and he says,
trying to pick a fight with me.
Exactly, because it's like, I can't do this, and God bless him for having the clarity of vision to know that it's not him, it's not about him. And Elisha hears about it and picks up the thing and goes from there. But I do like that idea, the fact that we always go to, I don't know if I can bring this in because people know some of the people involved in this story, but there's a current situation going on within our community of some strife within a family, not members strictly speaking here. They have touchstones here, but and they keep looking to, they've talked to me, they've talked to doctors, they've talked to others, and they know what to do. I've seen it on their Facebook posts, you know. They know what to do. They're just not listening to themselves because it isn't coming from on high and it isn't happening poof. Instead of doing the hard work of living day by day, you know, living into that, you know, to be terribly Lutheran maybe about this, is living into that baptismal covenant to say, you know, every day you are made afresh, that you are, you know, it's like, well, what should we do now? Pray? And I said, well, if you haven't been yet, yes.
Well, and that's the thing. We want poof.
Yes.
That's attractive. That's why, I can sell 500 copies of my lose weight in 7 days by just drinking blueberry juice, right? I'll sell 1 billion copies of that.
Yep.
But my eat right and exercise and you'll lose 2 pounds every other week is, while actually healthy and actually good for you, is going to sell nothing.
Right. And yeah. And people will drink that juice and get the runs and end up in the hospital, whereas opposed to eating healthy, working out decently, and living a healthy lifestyle, nobody will do.
Right.
Now that we got the world problem solved as far as the weight and diet goes, sitting here both with neither of us doing either one of those things.
Hey, now, I am on a workout plan. Thank you.
Oh.
I have been working out and I feel sore. So
good for you. Seriously. My wife and I had the discussion last week, and well, that's as far as it went again. So and now that it's getting colder, I don't even walk as far with the dumb dogs.
Well, it happened to work out well for me.
Yes.
Because Julia, who owns the P90X DVDs, was like, I should work out again. I was like, I'll do it. Like work out every week. If you skip one, throw in $5. And sure enough, makes you want to work out if you have to throw in $5 for missing one.
Yeah.
And
well, that's having that outside somebody to be accountable to. And
exactly.
I've never.
And it being something I can do at lunch.
Yes.
And it makes it a lot simpler. While it's not my preferred mode of working out, I'd rather do an hour and a half of cardio. Like, that's just the way I'm wired.
Yeah.
But this works.
There you go.
I don't know that I'm losing tons and tons of weight, but it feels better.
If it feels better, it is better.
Yeah.
You'd be good, all right. So we actually have one viewer out there in viewerland. So hey, good to see you. Our prattling has been helpful. We hope so. I don't know if we have anything else that we want to touch on as far as this week or any of the other stuff at this point.
I don't think so.
So I think that'll be. Hopefully we get a few more folks to join in. What's that?
I said, if you feel good about Naaman, you're preaching Naaman. Yeah. I feel like I got a good start on Micah, and we'll talk about that next week.
Yep. And if we get a couple more,
what you say about
we'll see what happens. So this is going out there into the world now, and we'll see what happens. So if we have said heresies, have fun with the comments.